Go to your refrigerator and take out that tub of yellow spread, the one that is not quite butter, and read me what is in it. Vegetable oils, water, coloring to make it yellow, emulsifiers, flavoring, a list of things worked up in a factory to imitate something real. And somewhere along the way, you were taught to be afraid of the real thing and to buy this instead. So I want you to understand something plain today. Real butter is one ingredient: cream. That is all. There is nothing in butter but cream that has been shaken until it comes together, and you can make it yourself, fresh and sweet and golden, in about 10 minutes, in a jar, in your own kitchen, and get a jar of real buttermilk as a free gift besides. Your great-grandmother made her own butter every week and never gave it a thought, and today I am going to show you exactly how she did it. My name is Amos. I am Amish. I am past 65 years old, and I have made butter in a Lancaster County kitchen since I was a boy taking my turn at the churn. And believe me, when you are 8 years old and the cream just will not turn, that churn feels like the longest chore on the farm. But then it comes all at once, that moment the butter breaks and gathers, and it is a small wonder every time. My mother made our butter from the cream off our own cows, and there was no tub of factory spread anywhere in that house, because why would there be when a jar of cream and a few minutes of shaking gave us the real thing? Today, I am going to teach you the whole of it, what cream to use and how to have it ready, the shaking or churning and the stages it goes through, the one washing step that most folks skip, that is the whole secret to butter that keeps, the salting, and what to do with that lovely buttermilk. But before any of that, I have to show you what butter actually is, because once you see it, the mystery is gone for good. Stay with me. Let me tell you what is really happening when cream turns to butter, because it is a simple and beautiful thing. Cream is milk fat floating in water, in tiny droplets, each one wrapped in a delicate skin that keeps it apart from its neighbors. When you shake or churn that cream, you're knocking those droplets against each other, over and over, harder and harder, until their skins break and the little bits of fat begin to stick together. First, they whip up thick, the way whipped cream does. Then, if you keep going past that, they clump harder and stiffer and grow grainy. And then, all at once, they give up and gather into a lump of solid butter, and the watery part they were floating and splits off and runs free, and that watery part is your buttermilk. That is the whole of it. Butter is just the fat of the cream, shaken until it gathers into a solid, and buttermilk is the water it leaves behind. No factory, no chemistry set, just cream and motion. I want to paint you the picture of how this went in our house because it tells you something about what butter really is. We milked, and the milk sat in the cool of the dairy room, and the cream rose to the top of it, thick and yellow, and my mother skimmed that cream off with a ladle and saved it in a crock until she had enough to churn, usually every few days. Churning day, the cream came out and warmed a little toward the coolness of the room, and then it was somebody's turn at the churn, and often that somebody was me. You worked the dasher up and down, and for the longest while nothing seemed to happen, and your arms ached, and you were sure it would never come. And my mother would say, patient as ever, keep on, it always comes just when you think it never will. And she was right. There would come a change in the sound and the feel. The sloshing would thicken and then break, and you would lift the lid, and there it was, a great soft mass of pale gold butter floating in the milk, made by nothing but your own 2 arms and time. There is no tub in any store that can give a family that. So when I tell you butter is just cream in motion, I am not only telling you a fact of the kitchen, I am telling you that a thing you were taught to buy is a thing you can simply make, and that there is a quiet dignity in making it. So here is how you do it. Start with heavy cream, the heaviest you can get, what is called heavy whipping cream, with a good high fat, because the more fat in your cream, the more butter you will get, and the easier it comes. And here is a thing many folks get wrong, the temperature. Your cream should be cool but not cold. Somewhere around 60 degrees is just right. Straight from the icebox, it is too cold, and it will take forever and never quite come. And warm, it is too soft and turns to greasy mush. So take your cream out and let it sit on the counter a little while to lose the deep chill to about the coolness of a cellar, and then it will churn up beautifully. Now, if you want the old-fashioned cultured butter, the tangy kind with the deeper flavor, you can stir a spoonful of buttermilk or plain yogurt into your cream first and let it sit out, loosely covered, for half a day to sour and ripen a touch before you churn. But that is a nicety, and plain sweet cream makes fine butter too. Now you agitate it, and you have many choices. The old way is a churn, but you do not need one. A simple glass jar with a tight lid, filled no more than halfway, so the cream has room to move, and you just shake it and shake it and shake it. Or you use a stand mixer or a hand mixer with the whisk, or even a food processor, any of which does it in a few minutes. However you do it, you will feel and see it pass through those stages I told you. In a jar, it goes quiet and sloshing, then thick and silent as it whips. Then you feel it slap and lighten. And then, suddenly, you hear the sloshing come back and feel a lump knocking about. And that is your butter breaking free from the buttermilk. In a mixer, you will see it turn to whipped cream, then stiff, then grainy and yellow. And then it will suddenly clump and splash the liquid out. So cover your mixer at that stage, or you will wear the buttermilk. When you have a lump of butter and a pool of thin liquid, you are there. Now, I want to take a moment, because this is the part that matters. Think about how this all came to be. There was nothing wrong with butter. People made it and ate it for thousands of years. And then someone worked out how to make a cheap imitation out of vegetable oil, hardened and colored yellow to look like butter. And they had a great deal of it to sell. And so began the long campaign to convince you that the real, simple food your great-grandmother made was somehow bad for you, and that this manufactured spread from a factory was better. Think on how strange that is, that you were taught to fear the food with one ingredient and to trust the food with 20. And even the butter you buy, fine as it may be, is sold to you at a markup for something that is, at bottom, just cream and a few minutes of shaking. There is money in a tub of manufactured spread and money in a package of butter. There is no money at all in telling you that a jar of cream and 10 minutes of your own 2 hands makes butter and buttermilk both. So they would rather you kept buying the tub. Let me give you back the churn. Now here is the step that most folks skip, and it is the whole secret to butter that keeps, instead of going bad in a few days, washing the butter. When your butter has come, you pour off the buttermilk first and save it, for it is precious. Then, and this is the key, you must rinse every last trace of buttermilk out of the butter, because any buttermilk left trapped inside will sour and turn your butter rancid quickly. So you put the lump of butter in a bowl, pour cold water over it, and work it, press it, and fold it, and knead it with a spoon or a wooden paddle, or your clean hand, and the water will go cloudy white with the buttermilk washing out. Pour that cloudy water off, add fresh cold water, and work it again. And you keep doing that, fresh water, and working until the water you pour off runs clear. When the water runs clear, all the buttermilk is out, and now your butter will keep. Skip this washing, and your butter sours in days. Do it, and it keeps for weeks. Let me tell you why this one step matters so much, because understanding it will keep you from ever skipping it. The fat of the butter itself is stable and keeps well, but buttermilk is milk, and milk sours and spoils. So every little pocket of buttermilk you leave trapped inside your butter is a tiny seed of spoilage, and it will turn that spot rancid and off, and the taint spreads. Washing is simply how you get every one of those pockets out, so that what is left is pure butterfat with nothing in it to go bad. This is exactly the step the old dairy women never skipped and never wrote down, because to them it was as obvious as breathing. And it is exactly the step folks skip today when they shake up a jar as a novelty and then wonder why their butter tasted fine for 2 days and turned by the 4th. Work the water through it, cold water, so the butter stays firm and does not smear, press and fold and pour off, again and again, and do not call it done until that water is as clear as it went in. A few extra minutes at the washing is the difference between butter that lasts and butter that is a waste of good cream. Once it is washed, you salt it if you like, and salt does two good things. It seasons the butter, and it helps it keep even longer, so work in about a half to a whole teaspoon of fine salt for each pound of butter to your taste, or leave it sweet and unsalted if you prefer, knowing unsalted will not keep quite as long. Then press out the last of the water, for water left in also shortens its life. Shape your butter into a crock or a mold or just a block wrapped in paper. And there it is. Fresh butter keeps in the refrigerator for a few weeks, and it freezes wonderfully for many months, so you can make a big batch when cream is cheap and freeze it. A word to the thrifty among you, and I count myself one. Cream often goes on sale, especially around the holidays, and that is your moment. Buy it up, churn a big batch over an afternoon, wash and salt and shape it into blocks, wrap each one well, and lay them in the freezer. Butter frozen this way comes back months later, just as sweet as the day you made it, and you will have laid in your own butter at a fraction of what the store charges, made by your own hand and free of everything but cream and a little salt. A freezer with a stack of your own butter in it is a small but real kind of security, the same as a cellar full of jars. And do not you dare pour that buttermilk down the drain, because real buttermilk, the true kind left from churning, is a treasure. It is not the thick cultured buttermilk from the store. It is thinner, but it is wonderful. Drink it cold, or use it in your biscuits and pancakes and cakes where it makes everything tender, or use a bit of it to start your next batch of cultured cream. From one churning, you get two foods, your butter and your buttermilk, and nothing is wasted, which is the whole spirit of an old farm kitchen. And that spirit is worth pausing on, because it is the real lesson underneath the butter. In the old kitchen, one thing became two, and the leavings of one job were the beginning of the next. The cream off the milk became butter. The butter's leavings became buttermilk. The buttermilk raised the biscuits and started the next batch of cultured cream, and round it went, nothing thrown out, nothing bought that could be made. That is not poverty, mind you. It is a kind of wealth, the wealth of a household that provides for itself and wastes nothing and knows exactly what is in its food because its own two hands put it there. You do not need a farm and a cow to have a piece of that. You need a carton of cream and a jar and the willingness to shake it. Start there, and you may find, as many do, that the making is half the pleasure of it. Now I have to be honest with you about a few limits and give you a word of care. First, the washing is not optional if you want your butter to keep, so do not skip it. Work that water until it runs clear. Second, mind your temperature. If your cream is too warm or you overwork the butter in a warm kitchen, it goes soft and greasy and hard to handle. So keep everything cool, and if it gets greasy, chill it and it firms right up. Third, a word on the cream itself. Most of you will use cream from the store, and that is fine, though the ultra-pasteurized kind churns a little more stubbornly than regular. And if any of you have access to raw, unpasteurized cream from a farm, I will only say this plainly. Raw milk and cream carry their own real risks, and the laws about it differ from place to place. So know what you are doing and mind your local law and your family's safety. For most folks, good store cream makes lovely butter with none of that to think about. And last, homemade butter has no preservatives in it at all, which is rather the point, so use it within a few weeks, or freeze it, and keep it covered and cold. So here's what I want you to do. Get a pint or a quart of good heavy cream and let it sit out until it is cool but not cold, about 60 degrees. Put it in a jar no more than half full and shake it or run it in a mixer through the whipped and the grainy stages until the butter breaks and gathers. Pour off the buttermilk and save it. Then wash the butter in cold water, working it and changing the water until it runs clear. Salt it lightly if you like. Press out the water and shape it. and you will have made real butter and real buttermilk with your own two hands out of one honest ingredient. Now tell me in the comments below. Tell me, have you ever made butter, even shaken a jar of cream as a child until it turned? Because near everyone who has done it remembers that moment it broke. And tell me, honest, were you ever taught to fear real butter and buy the spread instead? Because a great many of us were. And I would like to know how many of you are hearing today for the first time that butter is nothing but cream. Tell me your county too, and whether you can get good cream where you are. Next time, I am going to show you how to turn plain milk into a simple, fresh farmhouse cheese on your own stovetop. Soft and mild and ready the same day, with nothing but milk and something sour to set it. No special anything. Until then, keep your cream cool, wash your butter well, and remember, the people who fed their families from their own kitchens with their own two hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.